Welcome. Let's look at what is cloud and why do we need cloud. Before we answer these two questions, let's try to understand what do we do now, what happens at this moment. So if you look at this picture, it represents an complete architecture of all the components that are used on a on-premise infrastructure as of today. So a typical on-premise infrastructure looks like this. It is comprised of data centers, and each data center is a building where lots and lots of hardware components are interacting with each other, and also there are different softwares installed on each of them. There are many people who are behind this to make sure things are working correctly 24 by 7. And on these data centers, you deploy your applications like your front end application, back end application, your databases, your hard drives, everything is running on these data centers. So let's look at closely how what are the different components of a data that usually on a very high level exist in a data center. So if you see, there are many computer racks and they act as servers, and each of the computer, they have different operating system installed. Like one is Linux, another is Mac, another is Windows. Similarly, there are different network components attached to each computers. There are routers and switches, which helps to provide internet facility to these computers. There are lots and lots of cable wires. There are security systems, firewalls, and network hardware devices which are related to security. There are storage devices that's needed, hard drive and other things. And for extra storage, you also go for some extra hard drive kind of things. There are databases running, different kinds of databases, MySQL, Oracle, NoSQL, MongoDB, you name it, those kind of database exist. There are developers working there, DBAs trying to make sure the database are fine. Infrastructure people are working there. And let's say if you need another, let's say the development team needs another component that needs to be added for a new functionality, that also has to be procured and purchased and brought and installed in the data center. So this is what it looks like on a very high level on the on-premise infrastructure as of today. Everything has to be done. Every component and hardware, networking, software, licensing, everything has to be taken care. So the cost that comes to the owner for hosting an application by arranging all these components together is too high. And also there are many people involved making sure things are working as expected 24 by 7 and nothing breaks. And let's say if it is a New Year time or a Christmas time when the load is high on your application, you may need to buy extra components and add them to the existing infrastructure so that your application still continues to run without breaking down. So this is one example of one data center. Similarly, there is another data center, let's say this one. They both talk to each other via secure communication channel over the internet. Because if you are an insurance company or a bank or a healthcare company, you can't afford to keep your data and everything on network, all other devices in one location, because chances of single point of failure is very high if you do that. So what you do is basically you replicate the whole data center in another physical location which is far apart. Let's say a few miles apart. One is here, so another one would be around 70 or 100 miles far. So that if any flood or natural disaster or any calamity occurs, if one data center is down, the other data center is able to serve all the customers of your application. Similarly, all the data which are here needs to be replicated here. So every time the kind of synchronization should happen between the two data centers. So if you see, a lot of hassle goes in if you maintain or try to maintain an on-premise infrastructure and try to host your application there. So it's not an easy job, and it's not an, I mean, you have to spend thousands and thousands of dollars into setting up these infrastructures. You have to make sure it's secured as well, both from the software hacking capability security to the hardware and the building security. Each and everything has to be thought of. So this is how the current world works. Most of the enterprises are still using this setup of centers and different components in the data centers and multi-data center approach. But this is not going to work out for long because it has lots and lots of issues. Of course, cost is problem, security is problem, scalability is an issue. You cannot scale up and scale down automatically when it's needed. And then you also have to upgrade your software from time to time, upgrade your hardware from time to time. You cannot afford downtime. You have to have so many people behind the scenes making sure the applications are running 24 by 7. The hardware and the infrastructure are running 24 by 7. So this model is just not sustainable anymore. That's where the need of cloud arises. So if we look at on-premise IT infrastructure presents the biggest level of responsibility to you as a user, owner, and manager. And that's what we are seeing. It comes with the highest level of responsibility and cost. When your hardware and software on all on premises, when your hardware and software are all on premises environment, then it's up to you and your team to manage, update, replace components as needed. So we already talked about it. If you have everything on data center, it's you who take care of even the electricity part of it, even the cooling system that's needed to make the data centers cool down, because these devices are going to emit a lot of energy or a lot of heat. So each and everything has to be made sure it's in place, and you as the owner is responsible for that. And this is the reason why on-premise infrastructure, IT infrastructure is no more sustainable. And that's where the need for cloud arises.